My name is Marin Holt, 43 years old. I didn't go into my daughter's room that afternoon looking for trouble. I went in looking for her passport. We were supposed to leave for Montreal in 3 days. Family trip, fresh start, all that. Blair had been talking about it for weeks. Crepes, old buildings, practicing a few French phrases she'd learned from TikTok. She'd forgotten where she put her passport, of course, and my husband was on yet another business trip, of course, so it fell to me to find it. Her room still smelled like her. Vanilla body spray, shampoo, and something faintly citrus from the candle she wasn't supposed to light but did anyway. Clothes piled on the chair, Polaroids on the wall, a half-finished sketch on her desk of some girl with flowers growing out of her ribs. I pulled open the top drawer, then the second, then the third. Pens, hair ties, receipts from the bookstore where she worked part-time. No passport. When I tugged on the bottom drawer, it stuck, angled slightly off its track. "Come on," I muttered, giving it a harder pull. It jerked free all at once, and everything inside tumbled out. Socks, old notebooks, a dried-out highlighter, a crumpled concert wristband, and a small, leather-bound journal that slid across the hardwood floor and fell open, face down, to the middle. I shouldn't have picked it up. I knew that. But sometimes your hand moves before the rest of you catches up. I bent down, fingers closing around the warm, worn leather. The pages had the soft bend of something used daily. The ink was dark, dense, a teenager's cramped handwriting pressed into lined paper. My eyes flicked down to the first line on the open page. Day 127 since Mom started taking the pills. I froze. She thinks I don't notice, but I count everything now. The missing 20s from Dad's wallet, the way she nods off during dinner, how she can't remember conversations we had an hour ago. For a moment, I stopped breathing. This isn't about me, I thought immediately. It can't be. I didn't have a problem. I'd had back surgery 6 months ago. The pain medication was prescribed. Legitimate, necessary. My doctor said it was normal. Everyone knew post-op pain could take time to resolve. My hand shook as I turned the page. Found her passed out on the bathroom floor again today. Had to drag her to bed before Dad got home. I'm so tired of covering for her. Preston keeps asking why I can't hang out after school anymore. I can't tell him I'm scared to leave Mom alone. Bathroom floor. Passing out. Dragging to bed. I told myself she was exaggerating, dramatizing, doing that teenage thing where everything felt like the end of the world. Blair had always had a flair for words. She wanted to be a writer. Writers made things bigger on the page than they were in the moment. I flipped backward, fingers fumbling, heart pounding loud enough to drown out the house. Day 89. Mom promised she'd stop after Dad's birthday party, but I found 3 empty bottles hidden in her craft supplies. She was so high at dinner, she called me by her sister's name twice. She doesn't even have a sister. I remembered that night, or thought I did. Laughter, wine, cake. I'd worn that blue dress that still made me feel almost pretty. I remembered pain, too, a throbbing along my spine that I'd taken an extra pill to quiet. 3 empty bottles? Was that possible? Day 52. Had to lie to Grandma about why Mom couldn't talk on the phone. Told her Mom had laryngitis. Really, she was so out of it, she kept forgetting mid-sentence what she was saying. I sank down onto the edge of Blair's bed, journal in my lap, my back screaming in protest as if to remind me why I'd needed the pills in the first place. The doctor had said at first, take as needed. Then later, we'll renew the prescription one more time. I'd nodded, smiled, gone home. At some point, the instructions blurred. Needed became wanted. Wanted became automatic. I told myself I was still functional. I made dinners, mostly. I drove Blair to school, except on the days she walked or caught rides with friends. I did laundry when I remembered. I paid bills, I think. The days had blurred, soft-edged, dipped in a fuzzy comfort I'd come to rely on. Blair's entries were not soft-edged. Each page was a record. Precise, cold, devastating. Detailed accounts of my behavior I couldn't remember. Day 200. Found Mom crying in the kitchen at 3 a.m., holding an empty pill bottle. She looked at me and said, I don't know how to stop. I held her while she sobbed. For 10 minutes, she was my mom again. Then she went upstairs and I heard her rummaging through the medicine cabinet. My throat closed. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I remembered crying in the kitchen. I remembered the way the tiles had seemed to move under my feet. I remembered Blair's arms around me, the smell of her shampoo. I did not remember saying those words. I don't know how to stop. The entries weren't angry. That was the worst part. They were heartbroken, like she was dissecting a slow-motion car crash she couldn't escape from, cataloging each impact so she could one day explain the wreckage. I didn't realize I was rocking back and forth until I turned another page and the motion stopped. Day 312. Mom drove to pick me up from Sage's house today. She sideswiped Mrs. Patterson's mailbox and didn't even notice. When I got in the car, she was singing along to music that wasn't playing. I made her let me drive home. I'm 16. I don't even have my license yet. My stomach dropped. I remembered that day. I remembered the drive, the sun too bright in my eyes, the way the steering wheel felt heavy. I remembered singing along to a song, yes, but I thought the radio had been on. I remembered Blair asking if she could drive and me laughing and saying, "Sure, kiddo, good practice." I hadn't thought about mailboxes or neighbors watching from windows. I hadn't thought about the fact that I was putting my daughter in danger. I flipped to the very last entry, hands trembling so badly I almost tore the page. Day 356. I've been researching boarding schools. Found one in Vermont that has rolling admissions. I love Mom, but I can't watch her destroy herself anymore, and I can't keep lying to Dad. Preston asked me yesterday why I always seem so tired. I almost told him everything. I've saved $2,047 from my job at the bookstore, enough for the application fee and first month's expenses. If she doesn't get help soon, I'm leaving. I can't live like this anymore. I just want my mom back. The words blurred. I blinked, and they blurred again. My daughter was planning to leave, not for college, not for an adventure, to escape me, to escape the version of me I'd become. The front door opened downstairs. Keys jingled. Backpack hit the floor. Blair's voice floated up the staircase. "Mom, I'm home!" I stared at the diary in my hands. Evidence, indictment, confession all rolled into one. The open drawer beside me, the scattered socks, the passport still missing, but suddenly the least important object in the world. Footsteps in the hallway. Light, hesitant. Blair appeared in the doorway, framed by the hall light. Her curly hair was pulled into a messy bun, wisps escaping around her face. She wore the bookstore t-shirt and jeans with ink stains on the thigh. Her eyes dropped to my hands, to the journal, to the open page. The color drained from her face so fast it was like watching someone pull a curtain. "Mom," she whispered, and there were 100 days of exhaustion in that single syllable. For a second, we just stared at each other. Her body tensed like an animal deciding between fight and flight. Me frozen on her bedroom floor with the evidence of my own destruction in my lap. "I was looking for your passport," I said weakly, as if that somehow made it better. "For Montreal." She set down her backpack very slowly, like she didn't want to startle me, like she was the adult and I was the dangerous one. "What did you read?" she asked. My mouth went dry. My fingers tightened on the leather spine until my knuckles ached. "Day 127, I said, my voice barely audible, and more. Blair closed her eyes and took a shaky breath. "Of course," she said. "You never stop at one." She didn't shout. That somehow made it worse. Blair opened her eyes slowly, red-rimmed, shining, and looked at me like someone staring at a collapsing building they're too exhausted to run from. "Mom," she said again, quieter. "Why did you read it?" "I told you," I whispered. "I was looking for your passport. The drawer stuck and—" She let out a short, humorless laugh. "The drawer stuck, right." Every instinct in me rattled. My daughter had always been sarcastic, but this was different. This sarcasm was bone deep, forged from hurt. "Blair," I said carefully, "I wasn't trying to invade your privacy. I didn't mean to—" "But you did," she said, voice rising just enough to tremble. "You did read it." Her eyes flicked down to the journal, then back up, sharp as glass. "What else did you read?" I swallowed. Lying felt pointless now. "Everything." She went still, like a deer hit by a spotlight. "Everything," she repeated. I nodded, the shame burning so hot it made my skin feel too tight. I didn't know," I stammered. "I didn't know any of this was happening. I didn't know you were documenting things. Or that it was this bad. I didn't know "Of course you didn't know," Blair snapped, stepping into the room. "You were too high to notice anything." The words landed like a slap. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out, because there was no denying it. The journal had stripped every illusion from my memory. She pointed to the page in my hand, the one about me sideswiping a mailbox. "I begged you to let me drive that day," she said. "Do you remember that?" "I thought we were just practicing," I whispered. "No," her voice cracked. "I was terrified. You were singing to music that wasn't playing, Mom. You didn't even see the road right." Her words shook me to my core. I had no memory of the mailbox, no memory of her fear. Blair wiped at her cheek with the back of her hand. You don't remember anything I wrote in there, do you? Some of it feels fuzzy, but She turned away, arms wrapped around herself. That's the point. I looked at her, the tense shoulders, the slight shaking, the way she seemed to fold inward like she was trying to make her body smaller, safer. How long, I asked softly, have you known I had a problem? She didn't turn around. Day 23. The garage. The car running. The pill bottle on the seat. Blair, I whispered, I thought I had the flu. You didn't, she said. You passed out. The neighbor saw the car running for hours. She called Dad. He came home and helped you inside, and you told him you felt sick. I pressed my palm to my forehead. I don't remember that. I do. Her voice broke. I remember everything. Silence swelled between us, thick and painful. Finally, she turned around, eyes shining with tears she'd been holding back for too long. I tried to tell you, she said, so many times. Mom, you'd promised to get help, and then I'd find more pills. My stomach twisted. Pills in the washing machine. Pills hidden in craft supplies. Pills tucked in coat pockets. Empty bottles. How did I miss all this? I whispered. Because you didn't want to see it. I flinched. Blair stepped closer, desperation replacing her anger. I love you, Mom. I've been trying to keep you alive for almost a year. Her voice shook harder now. So did her hands. I did your laundry because you forgot. I cleaned the kitchen when you left burners on. I lied to Grandma, to Dad, to Preston, to everyone. I stared at her, really stared, and in that moment she seemed both older and younger than 17. A child forced to play the role of parent. A teenager weighed down by secrets she should never have carried. Your father. My throat tightened. Did he know? Blair let out a bitter exhale. He knew something was wrong. He just didn't want to deal with it. She sat down on the bed, rubbing her temples. He's always gone, she said. Work trips, conferences, deadlines. It's easier for him to convince himself everything's fine when he's not here. I felt something sharp and ugly inside me. Guilt, yes, but also anger. Not at Blair, not even at my husband, at myself. At the way I'd broken the whole structure of our home without noticing the cracks forming. I moved toward her, kneeling on the carpet. Blair, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. She stared at me, eyes hollow. You've said that before. But this time, how is it different? She demanded. How? I had no good answer, only a truth that hurt to admit. Because I finally see it, I whispered. All of it. Through your eyes. Blair's breath hitched. I placed the diary gently on the floor between us, like an offering. I want to get help, I said. I mean it. Tomorrow morning, I'm calling my doctor. I'll tell him everything. No more pretending, no more hiding bottles, no more lies. I'm done. She looked skeptical, tired, and heartbreakingly young. And Dad? She asked. I hesitated, then understood what she needed. I'll tell him too. Blair sucked in a breath, fear and hope tangled together. If you don't, she said, I'm leaving. I know. I've saved money. I know. I really was going to go, Mom. My chest cracked open. I know. I reached for her hand. She let me hold it, barely. We're not going to Montreal, I told her quietly. Not until I've been clean for at least 30 days. Her lips trembled. You promise? I promise. And for the first time in nearly a year, she leaned into me, just slightly, just enough. Her forehead touched my shoulder, a fragile moment, a beginning. Downstairs, the front door opened. Heavy footsteps, a familiar voice calling her name. Dad was home. Blair pulled away and wiped her eyes. If you don't tell him, she whispered. I will. I took a breath that felt like stepping off a cliff. I'll tell him, I said. We stood. We walked downstairs together. And for the first time, I was terrified in a way pills could never numb. My husband was already in the kitchen when Blair and I came downstairs, still in his work clothes, tie loosened, suitcase beside the counter like he hadn't even bothered to unpack. He looked exhausted in a way I hadn't seen in years, dark circles under his eyes, mouth tight, shoulders slumped as if he already knew something terrible was coming. Blair called me, he said, voice low, said I needed to come home. He looked at her first, and I watched the guilt stab across his face. Then he turned to me. What's going on? Blair stepped back, just a few inches, but the space felt symbolic. A small, trembling boundary. I reached for the counter to steady myself. I read her diary, I said, throat closing around the words. I know about the pills. Something in his face flickered. Pain, fear, recognition, not surprise. He exhaled shakily, running a hand through his hair. Marin. Don't, I whispered. Please, don't start with excuses. Blair crossed her arms, eyes burning into both of us. Dad, you knew something was wrong. You just didn't want to deal with it. His jaw clenched. That's not fair. That's exactly fair, she snapped. You were never home, and when you were, Mom would act normal for 2 hours, and you just accepted it. I looked between them, my daughter who had held everything together, and my husband who had been slipping away in small, silent increments. He swallowed. I thought she was managing. I figured you were just being dramatic when you said she forgot things, or that she was tired or stressed. So you went on more business trips, Blair said, her voice cracking. You left me here alone with her. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. And I realized, with a clarity I hadn't had in months, that we'd all been living our own version of denial. Mine was chemical. His was distance. Blair's was silence. But only one of us had paid the price. I'm getting help, I said finally. Starting tomorrow. Blair's eyes flicked to mine, searching for truth, for anything real. My husband's shoulders dropped. What kind of help? The real kind, I said. Not another promise. I'm calling my doctor, and whatever he says, detox, inpatient program, counseling, I'll do it. Blair let out a sound that was somewhere between a sob and a sigh. My husband rubbed his forehead. Okay, we'll figure this out. Not we, Blair said quietly. She will. You will. And maybe I'll stop feeling like I'm the only adult in this house. His face crumpled. But there was no more time for blame, only choices. The next morning, I called my doctor. I told him everything. The dosage, the refills, the way I'd been taking pills like breath mints, the lies I'd told myself and everyone else. I expected judgment, anger. What I got was firmness. Marin, you need treatment. This isn't a taper-off situation anymore. You need a structured program. A structured program. I felt myself sink, then rise with something like acceptance. My husband drove me to the treatment center 2 days later. Blair sat silently in the back seat, knees pulled to her chest, headphones in, but no music playing. She kept glancing at me through the window's reflection, eyes full of suspicion and hope tangled together. When we arrived, the center looked nothing like the sterile medical nightmare I'd imagined. It looked normal. A converted house, soft lighting, a woman watering plants near the entrance, a man reading on a porch swing. This doesn't look like rehab, I whispered. That's because most people who end up here are just like you, the intake nurse said gently. Parents, teachers, workers, people who got in over their heads. Surrender comes in different forms. Mine happened the moment I handed over my purse and felt the absence of the pill bottle like something had been ripped from my ribs. The first week was hell. Detox was a creature that climbed inside my skin. Shakes, sweating, nausea so violent I cried. Time lost its shape. Food tasted like metal. Sleep came in fractured minutes. But the worst part wasn't the withdrawal. It was the clarity. Memories came back in sharp, painful flashes. Blair shaking me awake on the couch. Blair pulling me away from a stove burner left on. Blair guiding me into the passenger seat because I was too high to drive. How had I not seen how much she carried? In group therapy, a police officer named Martinez confessed he'd been stealing pills from evidence lockers after his divorce. A kindergarten teacher sobbed as she admitted drinking wine during recess. I sat in the circle, gripping a paper cup of water like a lifeline. My daughter documented everything, I said. Every mistake, every relapse, every lie. I didn't realize she was keeping herself alive by writing it all down. Dr. Rodriguez, our counselor, nodded. Children in homes with addiction become archivists of pain. It's how they survive. Her words hit like a stone. Family therapy began in week 2. My husband came first. Defensive, nervous, already rehearsing excuses. I work 60 hours a week, he said. Someone has to keep this family afloat. Dr. Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. You think supporting your wife through a medical and emotional crisis is babysitting? He went silent. Then he broke down. I didn't know what to do, he sobbed into his hands. She kept saying everything was fine. I wanted to believe her. I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to fail her. You didn't fail her, Dr. Rodriguez said. But you did leave your daughter alone with something no child should face. The next session, Blair came. She sat between us, shoulders stiff, eyes wary. I want to read something, she said, and she opened her diary. Day 89, day 203, day 267. Each entry was a wound I'd inflicted, each sentence a truth I couldn't deny. Each detail a reminder of how deeply I had broken her trust. By the time she finished, we were all crying. I don't need you to be perfect, she said. I just need you to stop disappearing. I reached out for her hand. She let me take it. A beginning. After 30 days, I stood outside the treatment center, blinking into the sunlight like I'd stepped out of a dark tunnel. I wasn't cured, but I wasn't drowning anymore. Now came the real battle. At home, with my family, with myself. Walking back into my home after 30 days felt like stepping onto a stage where the play had continued without me. Same furniture, same dishes in the sink, same photos on the fridge, but everything had shifted. I had shifted. Blair hovered near the entryway, hands buried in her sweatshirt sleeves, shoulders stiff with caution. My husband stood behind her, offering a smile that was half hope, half apology. "Welcome home," he said. But Blair didn't step forward, not yet. I didn't blame her. Trust doesn't reset at the front door. The first week was a delicate dance. Blair monitored the bathroom door every time I went in. When I reached for the medicine cabinet one night, because I'd cut my finger chopping vegetables, she appeared in the doorway so fast she startled me. "It's just a Band-Aid," I said quickly. She nodded, but her eyes stayed on my hands. Old instincts whispered, lie, minimize, apologize. Recovery taught me to breathe instead. "I get it," I said softly. "You're not wrong to check." She relaxed a little, only a little. My husband tried too. He took Blair to school, cooked dinners, came home earlier than usual. But guilt hung on him like a second shirt. Sometimes he'd stare at me like he was waiting for a relapse to explode out of my skin. Other times, he'd watch Blair like he was terrified she'd slip away again. We were all learning to live with our ghosts. But the real test came 2 weeks after I returned. I was carrying a box of winter clothes up the stairs when my back seized. A lightning bolt of pain shot through me so violently I dropped the box. The first instinct that surged up from the deepest part of me was primal, familiar, terrifying. Pills. You need pills. Call your doctor. Call urgent care. You know exactly what to ask for. The craving slammed into me so hard I had to grip the railing. I closed my eyes, shaking. My sponsor's voice echoed in my head. "Your first thought is addiction. Your second thought is recovery. Choose the second." "Mom," Blair called from downstairs, "you okay?" I forced myself to breathe through the pain. I'm fine. But the truth wrapped around my ribs like a vice. I wasn't fine. My body remembered the easy comfort, the chemical escape. My muscles begged for relief. Later that night, when the pain worsened, I dialed my sponsor. "I can't do this," I said, voice cracking. "My back is killing me. The craving is... God, it's loud." "Good," she said calmly. "That means your brain is waking up. Ice, heat, ibuprofen. Call your doctor tomorrow, not to beg for pills, but to ask about physical therapy." "What if I cave?" "Then you call me first," she said. "And then you call your daughter. Secrets feed addiction. Honesty feeds recovery." I cried after we hung up, not because of the pain. Because I didn't reach for pills, not even once. The next morning, Blair noticed the ice pack on my back and the exhaustion in my face. "Your back hurts?" she asked. "It does," I admitted, "but I'm handling it without anything." Blair sat down across from me slowly, studying me like I was a fragile artifact. "That's good," she said quietly. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was something close to trust. Little by little, cracks of light appeared. Blair started going out again. Study groups, shifts at the bookstore, dinners with friends. She began talking to me about college, about debate team, about Preston and whether he liked her in that way. Every normal teenage topic I'd stolen from her for months. One evening, she came into my room carrying a stack of folders. "College applications," she said, biting her lip. "Will you read my essays?" I blinked at her, shocked, honored, terrified. "You want my input?" "Yeah." After a beat, she added, "You're actually present now." That word, present, felt like a blessing. We worked through the essays together. She wrote about her love of storytelling, her passion for psychology, her desire to help people who grew up managing adults instead of the other way around. She didn't mention the pills, or the diary, or Vermont. She didn't need to. Months passed, one steady day at a time. Sobriety wasn't glamorous. It was monotonous, relentless. But slowly the shape of our lives changed. There was laughter again, smiles that reached her eyes. Moments where she hugged me first. Then one afternoon in April, Blair walked into the living room clutching a large envelope. Her hands trembled. "I got in," she whispered. Collia University, her dream school, the one with the writing program she'd stalked online for a year. New York, 8 hours away. My heart tightened, not with fear, but with pride so sharp it almost hurt. She looked at me cautiously. "Are you okay with that?" More than okay, I said, pulling her into a hug. You're choosing this for you, not to escape from me. That's everything. Her arms wrapped around me, tight, warm, certain. It was the first time she'd hugged me without hesitation. Graduation came faster than I expected. Blair walked across the stage as salutatorian, smiling in a way I had missed for so long. I cried through the entire ceremony, real tears, not drug-numbed ones. In June, we finally took our trip to Montreal. Not to run, not to pretend, to celebrate. We wandered cobblestone streets eating pastries. We talked about college, life, fear, hope. And she showed me a new diary, the one she'd started after I came home from treatment. Day 181 since Mom got sober. Day 1 of letting myself enjoy life again. Today, we walked around Montreal like a normal mother and daughter. I bought a sweater I love. She bought it for me without forgetting. I'm starting to believe she's really back. My chest tightened. Blair, this is beautiful. I wanted you to read it, she said. The old diary was about survival. This one is about joy. Years blurred into a new kind of peace. Blair graduated from college with a degree in social work. She started running support groups for teens from addiction-affected families. She began writing a book, her book. She got engaged. Last week, she handed me her manuscript. Counting Days, A Daughter's Diary of Addiction and Recovery. I asked her if she wanted to include our full story. Only if you want me to, she said. It's your pain too. I thought of every parent still drowning, every teen documenting their trauma, every family on the brink. Include it, I said. If it helps even one person, include it. Tonight I finished reading her acknowledgments. To my mom, who taught me that love means choosing to get better. Thank you for fighting your way back to me. 5 years ago, she was counting the days until she could escape me. Now she counts the days we've rebuilt together. Trust doesn't come back in floods. It comes back in drops, until one day you realize you're standing in the light again.